What is up, YouTube? Welcome back. If you haven't already seen the first video I posted about Watcher of Realms, I'm recording this one right after that one. That's why I'm wearing the same outfit. So just so you're aware, there's probably going to be a couple videos in this same outfit because I only have so many days I can record. So I'm going to kind of put a bunch of videos together in one day and release them throughout the week so you guys get some content from me as regularly as we can get it. But today I wanted to talk about Kria. Now, if you've watched all of the other content creator videos, you have probably heard all of the negatives of Kria. You've heard some positives, of course. You know, she's good, right? But in comparison to the other mages, she's not that great, right? And that is totally true. I 100% agree with that. However, I want to talk to you guys out there who maybe pulled Kria as your first legendary, right? Or you pulled her as your first mage legendary, or just first mage in general, like me. This was literally my first damage dealing mage, right? You know, we do get Mari as a mage, but she's not really a damage dealer. You know, she deals a little bit of damage, but she's not a damage dealer. You know, and then I also have, you know, a couple other mages, like I've got Osiren and I've got AI, but Osiren's not that great. AI's more of a support, right? So I didn't really have any great mage champions or magic dealing champions in general. Only a few of my champions dealt magic damage, and so I was struggling in places like Gear Raid 1. And because we had a Gear Raid 1 tournament while I pulled Kria, I said, you know what, let's build her up. She's going to be able to push me higher because I don't have any magic damage. I was doing Gear Raid 1 with Nyx and Cetrum. Guys, 2 physical damage dealers. And was it working? Yeah, but I couldn't push as high as I could have done with a magic damage dealer. So let's get right into it. I don't want to go over the skills. You guys already know the skills. You've seen all the other content creator videos. You've seen all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to do a quick overview of what my gear looks like and, you know, what artifact I'm using, and then we'll show you a quick Gear Raid 18 run. You'll be able to see all this stuff. Now, I will preface this by saying this is not the gear that I used to get my clear on Gear Raid 1 Stage 18. The gear I used is the storyline gear that I have here now on my hot set. However, one thing I've learned, and if you don't know this already, I will tell you now, and you will hopefully know. Once you clear a stage and you get that power of dominance buff, guys, it is very, very strong. So I was able to clear this with Kria using this storyline gear. And then I swapped her to some very much weaker gear, right? You'll see here, this is much weaker than that other gear. And she's still able to clear that Gear Raid 1 Stage 18 without any problems because of that power of dominance buff. Now, if I decided to push further in Gear Raid 1 using her, then of course I would need to give her some better gear in order to push that because I wouldn't have that power of dominance, and so because of that, she's not going to be as strong. But in order to farm it later on, I can move that gear onto a better champion like my Cetrum, or onto my Zealatu, or my Deimos, or Hotset, whatever I'm using currently that I'm trying to push content with. I can move those best pieces of gear over there and still have my Kria being able to farm me that Gear Raid 1. Pro tip, if you didn't already know it, I'm sure you did, but if not, that's the information. Alright, then we have Kria's artifact. Now, I have a Tear of Starlight on her. Again, I will say, though, I did not clear Gear Raid 1 with the Tear of Starlight. I didn't have it yet. What I cleared it with was this level 1 soul-eating crystal. And this is because she is the person that's getting the kills, and her ultimate deals a decent amount of damage, but it's not even the damage that makes it good. It's the buff she gets after using the ultimate to her Stormcrows and herself of being able to get that additional damage. And so being able to get rage really, really well through Soul Eating Crystal was very good for me. Now, of course, if you have a Tear of Starlight, it will be better. That 20% attack is just better than 3% rage when killing the target. Okay, especially since her ultimate already charges up pretty quickly. So it's not necessary to use the Soul Eating Crystal because it already builds up pretty quickly. So if you have a Tear of Starlight or a better artifact, I'm not super familiar with all of the artifacts. I know Tear of Starlight's probably one of the best mage artifacts. I think there's also the artifact from the event right now that you could use for her. I'll go ahead and pull that up here so you guys can see it. You've got the Skull of Desecration, I think it's called. Yeah, Skull of Desecration. It's damage increased by 20% that they take, but they also deal 25% AoE damage. Well, all of her damage is AoE damage. This one is pretty good for her as well, I would assume. I haven't quite picked it up yet because I wanted to buy those summons for the extra legendary event, but we will be picking this up for sure before the end. I definitely recommend you guys do it too. It's great on a bunch of different champions. So let's get right into the showcase of my Gear Raid 1. Let's get into that. Okay, so again, this is the run, and this is the team that I used, and you'll be able to see it run out very nicely with positioning and everything. You will see that I used Aatrox for a little bit of cheesing. This allows me to get a touch bit of damage, but also prevents a little bit of damage on the wall, which was really helpful early on, because it makes it so that things stack up a little bit better and gives you more time to get the damage out. And like we said before, Kria's not the best magic damage dealer, not the best mage, and so because of that, you can struggle a little bit early on. But you'll see here that she's able to do it quite well. We do have Nyx in that top wave up there. Nyx does very, very good AoE damage. However, it is physical. So it helps weaken the enemies, but it's very hard to get the kills with her. And then, of course, we have Setram. He is mainly there to deal pretty big burst damage to the boss. You'll see the health goes down pretty quickly when we pop the ultimate on him. And then, of course, we have our Dolores. Dolores is pretty standard to be a great champion. If you don't have Dolores, you could use Autumn. She's a rare. She gives, I think, 10% crit chance and like 25% crit damage, if I remember correctly. Which is not quite as good as Dolores' attack buff, of course, but it is helpful. Maybe you could use both of them. Kind of just have to see. And then, of course, we have our healers, which was Midon and Lightlock in this situation. And they did pretty well. Actually, I don't even think I used Lightlock. No, yeah, I didn't use Lightlock. I only used one healer, which was Midon at the time. Of course, if you have a better healer, like a Vortex, for example, which I just picked up recently, that's probably better, right? Ooh, we get a piece of gear. Hey, we got a piece of gear. Usable. Ooh, another piece of gear usable. Another piece of gear usable. We take those. We take those. But we'll go ahead and pop in here. This was the team that I was... This was not the team I was using. Hotsit wasn't there. And Vortex wasn't there. I lied. I had Aatrox and Midon in that spot, so we'll take those out. Midon was my healer, and we had Aatrox there, like I said, to prevent a little bit of damage. So yeah, this was the team that I used. We had Kria was our main damage dealer there. We had Valkyra to kind of help lower the health a little bit, and because of how Kria works, this team actually works pretty well. We have a couple champions there to sort of soften up the enemies, and then Kria's there to be able to get the kills and get those storm crows rolling, be able to do some pretty good AoE burst damage with that ultimate, and then of course from there you empower those crows even more. And it's worked out really, really well. We, of course, also have Mari in there. Mari is being used just to apply that slow and give a little bit of freeze in order to slow them down from being able to hit that wall. It works really, really nice. And, of course, she's a free champion. She's phenomenal. Great. We love it. And then, of course, we do have Aeon here. Aeon is an epic lord. If you've been playing the game for a little while, you probably already have Aeon because she's part of the current fusion event. Maybe you're coming up on getting her here shortly after the current events that are out now, or maybe a couple months down the line you're watching this and you see, you see that you're using her and maybe you don't have her. And if you don't have her, I don't think she's super necessary. She does give some extra damage dealt. 20% if they're inflicted with a stun, freeze, or immobilize, which is nice, but you can also just use Nero, which is 15%, and that's pretty much fine. You get a little bit more basic attributes, a little bit more damage, but it's usable. Nero's a rare lord. You can use him. He's not the best, but he'll work. But yeah, this was the team that I used, guys, and I really wanted to be able to showcase Kria here. I'm going to go ahead and do one more run, and we'll look at the damage afterwards so you guys can see it. But realistically, I think that Kria is very, very viable in the early to mid game, unless you get really, really lucky and get one of those other very good mages like a Zealous, etc., right? Comets, right? Unless you get one of those really, really, really overpowered mages who's very strong in a lot of content, especially in Gear Raid 1. I think that Kria is definitely viable. Now, that is not me saying go summon on her 10 times event if it's still up by the time this video gets posted, or if she has another one coming up soon, for example, because I don't necessarily think it's worth to summon on the 10 times event for her specifically, because as the other content creators and myself have stated, she's not the best and you'd be better off going for someone else. But if you happened to be blessed by the RNG gods to pull a Kria and you don't have any other decent mages, you didn't spend the $5 for Iona, like I didn't spend the $5 for Iona, you know, or you haven't gotten lucky and pulled any other mages like me, she's a good option. She is a viable option. I will say, and I think most other people would agree with me, definitely don't invest things like legendary skill dust or especially skill crystals, maybe skill dust, because that's, you know, not too bad. The legendary skill crystals is definitely where I would stop if I was you. But let's go ahead and look at the stats. You'll see here she does a good chunk of damage, right? 22 million damage here. Definitely not bad. And of course, we've got our Valkyra doing 6.3. She is only 5-star. Her gear's not that great. We've got Nyx doing 5.7. Pretty good gear on my Nyx, pretty good gear on my Cetrum, but they deal physical damage. These guys have tons of defense, so they're not going to deal as much damage. And then, of course, we have Mari and Aatrox, kind of just there to do some basic, you know, CC and a little bit of meat shielding, right? And then, of course, we've got our Midon doing a nice, decent chunk of healing. But, guys, I really think that these are potentially viable hero, right? I think she's a potentially viable hero, and I don't want people to sleep on her because I think that she is worthy of being built on an account that is like mine that doesn't have any other good mages. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Did you pull Kria on the 10 times event while you were searching for Deimos, for example? You know, would you guys like to see a possible Kaniza, right? I'm not currently building her, but she might be viable for me to build at a later time. Maybe we can build her up, kind of check her out. I know a lot of other content creators have already done a video on Kaniza, and so because I haven't built her and I have all these other heroes that I want to build, maybe I don't do it. But if you guys really want me to do it, I can definitely look into possibly doing that in the future. But guys, yeah, this is my thoughts on Kria. I think she's pretty good. I don't think she's necessarily bad. You know, she does get some pretty high ratings, right? You know, 4.0, decent, right? I mean, of course, you get down here and she's not very good, but decent in anti-air, decent in gear rate 3, gear rate 2, decent in sustained DPS, decent in golden XP. I think golden XP is probably the place she is the best at, because there's just a lot of mobs that spawn, and you know, probably the best place she's usable. And then of course we've got gear rate 1 where I think she's really good, and then of course faction trial, she's a cultist, she's gonna do great there. You know, but yeah, guys, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, leave a like down below, and of course comment again, did you pull Kria? Do you want Kria? How do you feel about Kria in general? Let me know in the comment section down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.